continuation of the lecture on the method to know when relationship has enough basis to not cause health issues or social issues because of insufficient basis in desire to marry that couple. That desire needs to be source of greatest love, because from that children are born, and from that also children are possible to let go of and stop having self impersonating uh, that child to deserve respect and self-worth in society, because the other partner left at home that we exchanged, or that we did not want to have children, and got that person to compassionately deposit semen, because that's what women most of the time do. That is to not to be called names, socially ostracized. And men also, when a female has pleasure in sexual one, men don't want it, reject it, and pretend that nothing happened, pretend that this is bad, that being in love is they call it cheesy, meaning that it is like growing, I guess, a calf to have milk, and all those rejections is what happens to being in love. That is in no way the relationship progress. In fact, despite of those things, often persons, like I was married for 12 years, we actually forgive one another and move on, until there's something that absolutely is a proof that that person wishes harm to the other, and that is then to trust not no longer possible, and it is derived from insufficient desire and pursuit of altruism by that person, be without that selfish love, because selfish love also is about not sharing that partner with others, and that is not offering that partner to others, because that's unnatural. That is not enough to call that relationship lawful and issue license. And tests are deficient, because tests ask, do you want to have children with that person? That children, that question, even if person is most attractive, is completely missed. It's like asking, do you want to have a puppy? Well, sure, that is a very nice idea. Do I want to have that person for life to have sex with, and that is a dream come true, so that no nurse, no male or female colleague got even in intensity of the religious ecstasy compares to how I feel about my spouse? Those are the questions and criteria to choose that person. What are now components of relationship? And then I'm gonna start talking about pathologies and demystify. I know that some love about it, psychiatric, neurologic, and many other conditions. Suffering is unquestionable. Of course, we need to alleviate suffering. However, many of those medical terms and states, conditions, are cured by not having an impression that human lives in a vacuum, and that there is no source of changes in body, the same as color of skin that is darker because there is a sun down there. The same is with desire. If person comes and says, I don't desire you, do you understand, and or is harmed, and that person can explain why that person is harmed, then I obviously do not desire that person, even if I did in the past. If I never desired that person, and that person expects it because that person has distorted reality in which all women are fused, and expects, because I'm a female, desire even though he has a partner, that person is confused to identity. And that is what that person needs to understand, that that woman then, and he have no basis to have an attachment that prevents him from running from one woman to another, and in fear as assuring that he does not want sex, or ask for it as if it was a recommendation letter. And that's why components of relationship are important, and this is an original mine video, and those you won't find anywhere else, and they help above all in medical field and also in police work. I've obtained it thanks to persons that have first and last name in personal relationships. And those personal relationships, when that was only a dream in my mind, that dream was because, and that's true for all, that person was identified as such, as known person, remembered as known person, or that person was prior to meeting identified as so good, as so good in altruism and so loving in a selfish way, that combined, that person then met is source of love. If that is not the case, then that person cannot possibly win love. That is irrelevant how much that person holds somebody's hand or exchanged whatever it is that was exchanged, including experiences and in pain or not, or books. That is important. It's a separate topic, I'm praying, but that is another. Let me close it in. That's another topic. Components now of relationship to be able to be happy enough that the source, that person of happiness, is greatest in person in sexual activity, and in person also all derived from that activities, as well as activities from necessary for personal happiness and existence, are preferred to be done together, because the two persons love, adore, in fact, being together and one another, and looking at one another more than others, feel comfortable about it, feel also that beauty of the other person is such that it is hard to resist sex. Sex is actually never something that ends or that becomes boring, never. For one or for the other, it's a fact. If it was not enough from the beginning, then that is not going to be enough for a very good reason, because persons did not love one another, and that is not changeable. If persons, however, did love one another and desired one another and have sex, then with each accepting of that relationship, what is an orgasm as source having one particular individual, and having that in reciprocity, having that other person have an orgasm at the same time from the other person, is what causes an attachment called gender specific love in gratefulness, love that is grateful for masculinity, and gender specific gratefulness for femininity in an adult relationship in love, basis of long-term attachment. So that love from being unsure becomes love that is sure, because persons had sex, that these persons in mind and body prefer as source, also in concentration, to be together and have greatest pleasure, just not enough almost to be separated, if that person is not having sex and it has to be mutual. There is no asynchronous sex that can be fornicated into, and that also is much more than being a reflection of a person, and so having the same clothes or having self-loved because the other one loved, like in that poem, once I loved my hand because you touched me, or you said it was beautiful, and then I saw it as not just a tool to do things that if I overuse that needs to be regenerated, and that requires to give it a bit of time, or that same is true for eyes or other body parts, but as some sort of love and desire as source, because of that individual is the most beautiful, most loved and adored by self, and feels that way, giving that feedback in own delight, being desired and loved, loving and desiring, and being touched, being even more so, which never ends and has no limits. And children are wonderful and are wanted, but children, to gain independence, are to remain unharmed and let go. and enjoy those comings and goings of children, as opposed to having them artificially in some way or limited or in under an impression that sexual activity disturbs. On the contrary, sexual activity is because also that person is so gorgeous, in fact, like no one else in the universe, so smart and so entertaining, that all of the others are less. And child reminds of that, and think that child, if that person is not around, is joy and reminder that that person was so wonderful. If then that is preventing from having children, is because that couple, each of those couples, do not have sexual activity, because from sex comes mutual esteem and appreciation and self-esteem to know we can have more children, we want them, we want more sex, we want another one, just like that one that we adore and is so happy, and everybody right now is amazed how independent the child is. That is what love, mature one, is. If one clings to a child, presents as the relationship is exhausted now because of accomplishment of the child, and one runs around saying I am now a mama, or that is a papa only, that is okay when the child is present. However, for one another, the individual is not seeing another through eyes of the child, but see the other person as an adult grown woman sees a man, and vice versa, unlike the others that add to it layers such as ego of a profession, or other layers which at home do have priority in common household and caring for one another also, and then the others, however, that are not source of a love making. I cannot, for instance, have a person who wants me to wear white coat to have sex taken seriously if that person wants to have then sex with a whole graduate classroom of 30 persons or so of mine in medical school, that he wants to have that medical white coat on because he loves me for that coat, and if that coat is gone, then he doesn't feel like having sex. Well, he wants then to have me being attending patients and does not want to have my children, because if I am pregnant, obviously, that I will have to then go and work, and that will be less time having with that child and with that spouse. And the same is for uniforms. The question is then, as in that selfless love, how many others with that characteristic do you prefer, so that we don't have children to go to work and delegate to others as a reminder of you, or later on not, so that you ask to have respect for the priest while saying that you are not worthy love, questioning everything that I do to reject sexual activity and bring for that tiredness and an income. There is no magician that can evoke from a snake desire when a person is not desirous and does not want it and responds in sadness or anger. Those are elements that have some sort of a gradation, and I will address that in next video. Consider that an introduction about synchronicity and intensity of those stages, and reciprocity. That is what matters. And then we will talk about components and also physiologic and anatomical changes.